Hi, I'm Antoine Mautier, Technical Evangelist at Bonita Soft, and I will present this last update of the Bonita Camp. Bonita Camp is a series of videos that teach you how to use Bonita Community Edition. This is an introduction of all the features of Bonita Community Edition, and it's a mix of presentation, demonstration, but also exercise. If you have any question related to this series of videos, you can of course add your comments on the video, or open an issue on the Bonita Camp GitHub project, or the recommendation is probably to post your question on the community forum where you can get help for sure. If you have questions regarding the Enterprise Edition or Bonita Soft training, you can go over bonitasoft.com and use the contact form available there. So let's start with a quick checklist of what you need before actually starting this series of video. So first, make sure you go over GitHub and get the last release of Bonita Camp resources. The resources include the slide set, but also exercise instruction and exercise solution. Also, in order to run Bonita Studio, you will need Java 8 installed. Currently, only this version of Java is supported by Bonita Studio, so you need to make sure you have this one. So you can, in the command line, type java-version, and it should be here 1.8. So I got the correct version here. Also, you will need Bonita Studio installed. So once Studio is installed, just click on this icon here, the portal icon, and make sure that the portal web page opens. If you have any issue, please ask for help on the community forum. Another recommendation is about the web browser you will use for the development. I recommend to use either Chrome or Firefox, as they provide good tooling for web development, but of course Bonita support Microsoft Edge and as well Internet Explorer 11. And finally, the last recommendation is always get the latest version of Bonita, and also check that you use the latest recording of Bonita Camp and that you use as well the latest resources for the Bonita Camp. So let's take a quick look at the agenda of the Bonita Camp. So we'll speak first about the Bonita solution to have an overview of the various components of the solution, what is the approach of Bonita to development of application. We'll see in detail what are the components of the solution, and then we will deep dive in all the various areas of the development of an application. So we'll speak about modelization of process, because when you build application with Bonita, you build them on top of processes. So we'll speak about the BPMN notation. We'll see how you manage the data, the business data in your process, how you can build forms, web forms for the user to interact with your application, how you deal with permission management and as task assignment, and also see how you can perform some interaction between your application third-party system, like calling an API in the cloud or thing like that. And finally, we'll speak about how you package together what we call a Bonita application and how you can deploy all that in production. But first, let's start with the Bonita solution. So what is the aim of Bonita solution? Actually, when you build an application, you can write from scratch using some basic low-level libraries and writing some codes. But the approach of Bonita is to lower this volume of codes. And for that, we heavily rely on models. So the main one is process model. So we use a BPMN notation. We create BPMN diagram to describe the business logic of the application. And we have other models as well, for example, for the business data, but we also use some rapid development approach for the user forms with a drag and drop solution. Models bring several benefits when you develop application. Probably the top one is about the collaboration when you build the application. It's make really the collaboration between business users and technical developer a lot easier when they speak on a diagram rather than on a piece of source code. Also, the approach based on process modeling and execution of process for the business logic help to track the execution of the process, monitor who performed a task when they perform it, how long a task was waiting to be done, and it's opened a door to a lot of optimization, fine-tuning, and we'll see that Bonita is really adapt and compliant to an agile approach of the development. So now let's take a look at the Bonita component. So here we'll have a quick overview. Don't worry, we'll go in details in the upcoming section about all the various components. So we have four main components: the Bonita Studio, the Bonita UI Designer, Bonita Engine, and Bonita Portal. So the studio is basically the development environment. UI Designer is a solution to create, of course, user interface. We'll see it's a web tool that is packaged with the studio. And Engine is in charge of process execution, and Portal is the web application that let the user interact with the forms and drives the process execution. And it's also an administration tool. In terms of packaging, Engine and Portal are both packaged together as a single Java application. But of course, it's not mandatory to work with Java technology when you use Bonita. You can integrate Bonita with other technology like .NET. We'll speak a little bit about the API of the Bonita engine. And when you do your development in Bonita Studio, we embedded a test environment. So we have an application server that is Tomcat, and the Bonita Engine and Portal web application is deployed in this test environment. So for all the exercise we'll do in this session, you only need Bonita Studio with a test environment. We'll just mention a little bit about deployment in production in the last video, in the last chapter. So the Bonita Studio, a quick view on the Bonita Studio here. So if you are familiar with any IDE to develop like Eclipse or IntelliJ, for example, we try to have the same kind of approach. You have on the left a tree with all the resources, all the artifacts that you will use to build an application. And on the right, you can see the diagram when you edit. So when you build a model, you will see the diagram on the right here. And you have on the left all the BPMN elements. We'll get back to this, that you can drag and drop to draw your diagram. And if you select an element on the diagram, you have the details at the bottom. The basic layout of the studio. In the toolbar, important tooling is this play icon here that will run the process. So it will package the process, deploy it in the test environment, and launch a new process instance. And you have this tool here that brings a UI Designer tool. We'll go in the details a little bit later on about how you create forms and all that. So Bonita UI Designer, so when you open it, you get an empty canvas, but you can really quickly create some forms by doing some drag and drops. So you find all the standard widgets of any HTML form. This tool is open in your web browser. It's a web-based tool to build web interface. As a backend, in terms of technology, we rely on AngularJS and Bootstrap. And if the catalog of standard widgets is not enough, of course, like in many ways in Bonita solution, you can extend the catalog by creating your own widget. Just one quick notice is about this UI designer tool. As it is embedded in Bonita Studio, make sure that before closing the Bonita Studio, you save your work in the Bonita UI designer. Next component is the Bonita Engine. So this component, of course, doesn't have any graphical interface. It's a pure technical component. It's in charge of process execution, so dispatching the task, executing business logic associated with each task. It provides APIs, so if you need to drive your process from another system, like a content management system or any external solution, you have REST APIs, for example, to start a process, execute a process, and so on. In terms of technology, you will need a Java application server. It was developed in Java 8, and to run it requires Java 8, and future version will be, of course, compatible with the Java 11. It's all packaged together, as I said earlier, in a single Java application because it uses a few Java EE services. And to store all the information regarding process execution, it will use a database, standard transactional database. So like, for example, MySQL, PostgreSQL, Oracle, SQL Server. And so you need to have this database configured for the Bonita Engine, but in the studio, in our test environment, it's integrated with a file database. It's H2 that is embedded, so you don't need any extra setup. And finally, a quick note about the deployment. So when you want to deploy this for production, we provide bundles with the Bonita Engine and the Bonita Portal and an application server like Tomcat or Wildfly. And we provide also Docker image. And for Enterprise Edition, we also provide tool to deploy automatically Bonita on AWS or Microsoft Azure. Last component is the Bonita Portal. So this is the web interface that the end user and administrator will use to interact with Bonita. So mainly this Bonita Portal is a web frontend that will call the REST API of the engine. So it can be used, for example, like in this view, to have the list of pending tasks and see the forms to perform the tasks. So this will drive the process execution. But it also brings an administration view that will let you configure the process, deploy the process, configure who can do a task, and so on. We'll see that later. Quick note about what we call the forms, and also we'll see what we call an application and pages. So basically, a forms is a user interface you will create with the UI designer and that you will associate with your process model. So you will have one forms to actually start the process usually, and you will have forms on the tasks that require human interaction in your process. So forms are used to display data, grab input from the user, and when the user submits a form, usually it will start a process or execute a task. And when you deploy your Bonita application, all the forms are actually rendered by the Bonita Portal. We have another concept in Bonita in terms of user interface. It's what we call application. So an application is a set of pages. So pages are very similar to forms. We'll get back to this as well when we will start building user interface. The main difference between pages and forms is that the pages is totally independent of the process. It can be used to create this kind of dashboard that will aggregate different data and also embedded some button for action on different process. It's not a one-to-one binding with one process definition. And actually an application is a set of pages plus a menu that let you navigate with this, among those pages. So this is really a solution to have this custom user experience to compare to what you have in the portal. So, sorry, in the portal you got the standard task list view. With Bonita Portal application, you can get a more custom experience for the end users. So that's it for the quick overview of Bonita components. Now we'll start to have a look at the process modelization. So starting using the studio to create the process. So this will be the next chapter.